All right, here we go. We are live. Thanks for joining us for the Creators Conclave. We come to you every 2 weeks. Sorry, I can hear myself.
You had such vim and vigor going with that one.
Wow.
Go!
Sorry.
Go!
Woohoo! Yeah, always something, right? So anyway, we come to you every 2 weeks. We bring to you current events and some RPG news as well, current RPG news, and we always shape anything, even current events, whether they're touchy subjects such as politics or news or special events or natural disasters or what have you, and take that and shape that into RPG fuel for your consumption. And we usually go about an hour or more. Myself and Leif, who runs the channel Darius Jonna, and all that information can be found in the details below. So introduce yourself, sir.
As well, really, it's I am what's said on the tin. I am Darius Jonna. I also go by the name of Leif. You may pick and choose which name you wish to call me, because God knows I do. You can find me on my website channel. I'm also just around here because I have nothing to do on a Thursday, on a Sunday. But no, actually, seriously, I'm here to talk about the hilarious and lovely and horrific things that have been happening around the world. We live in a modern-day dystopia. Blade Runner is right. So, my dear friend Dave, tell me, what's been happening in the news recently? Because I've been living under a rock, doing night shift, and not really paying much attention. So what's happened?
All right. There are any number of things I could pick that would just add to the depression, I suppose it would be, for the majority of us who are just sickened by like politics and mass media and such. But the one that stuck out to me, and I thought this is a great subject to use to create RPG fuel, is recently the director James Gunn has been fired from Disney, the major corporation that will one day do a mechanized battle with this, Google or Amazon. Maybe McDonald's might be like that, like the mechanized version of a wild card when they start doing battle over the seas or something with, nuclear missiles and laser craft. But in this case, Disney has decided to fire James Gunn. Now, James Gunn is the director of note who has created the world-renowned Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. He's got a good eye. The music is iconic. The characters that none of us knew about have become, I Am Groot has become a call sign for a number of people who would have never, ever known about those comic book characters. And the reasoning behind why James Gunn was released from his job. Let's make sure we can get this broadcast up here. I mean, what you're showing. There we go. So, in short, James Gunn tweeted something on social media that was extremely crass and harmful. And essentially, it was the equivalent of tweeting out dead baby jokes, right? Now, these were 10 years ago, and here's the crux of the matter. Because another individual was released from their job for doing the same thing, which was Roseanne Barr was released for tweeting out, things that were not in line with the broadcaster, and then fired from their job. Okay. So the basis of this, and sometimes we tend to forget this, that these individuals that are fired have done nothing criminal, but because of their jobs in broadcasting and entertainment, the company has provisions in their contracts that you cannot engage in things that cast a bad light on them and therefore their investors and their advertisers. So a company, I'm just making this as an example. Let's go outside of broadcasting. Let's go to like McDonald's, because I mentioned that earlier. Let's go to McDonald's. If you're an employee and let's say you are engaged in illicit or criminal activity, McDonald's may fire you not because of your illegal activity, but because you are engaging in acts that cast a bad light on the company itself, right? You get arrested. Now they're saying, hey, an employee that works for McDonald's is spray painting walls, or is playing loud music, obnoxious music, or running the streets naked or something. And then McDonald's may say, listen, your behavior is casting a bad light on us. You've got to go. All right. So that provision has always been around in entertainment, and they will never let that go. You need to live. They're saying that you need to lead your life, live your life in a manner that does not cast a bad light on us. But here's a problem that I think people tend to ignore, in that social media, when we witness it, it has an immediacy that when people say things that is verbal, that is not in social media, when you have a conversation with someone, you interact with them, there's a time delay and time disbursement of that information. An example would be, today we don't have the same relationship we did when we were with friends in high school. So someone could have been an a-hole in high school, but as time goes on, they change. Unfortunately, with social media, despite the fact that many of these people never knew James Gunn did these tweets 10 years ago, they're seeing them today. So they're reacting to them today. So now Disney has to respond today, even though those tweets were very public. You could go back and see those tweets. The other thing that was brought up, and I didn't realize, I didn't really think about this. When Twitter first started, Twitter was not a modern social media giant in the essence of, hey, I'm going to tweet out information about modern society today. It actually started out with individuals. Many were comedians tweeting out jokes to their followers.
Yeah.
So there were a ton of comedians that had these jokes, good or bad or what have you, and they would do the tweet of the day, right? They would make a joke or something, and people would follow them based on, this person has a little funny quip, and they would get the quip, and then they would share that quip around. And so James Gunn, maybe at that time, was putting out these really tasteless jokes that just were landing flat. Now, this before he became James Gunn, the director that we all knew, he actually tweeted out that he was not going to do this any longer because he knew it was in bad taste, apologized for it, and already stopped doing it 10 years ago. Yeah. And then never deleted what he posted for fear that, and some people would say, well, why not just delete these posts? Well, deleting posts kind of sets an example of, like, what are you trying to hide that you had said before, right? So instead of deleting them, he just left them up and was like, you know what, this is really bad, I'm just not going to do it again, and then decided not to do it. Some are comparing him to Roseanne Barr because Roseanne Barr did the same thing. The difference is that the tweets are old and he stopped doing it. Roseanne Barr did something recently, got fired for recent tweets, not what she did in the past, because she was already forgiven for any tasteless activity she had in the past. she was fired for what she had done recently, and she didn't apologize for it and whatnot. Now, the one thing I completely disagree with is that Disney knew those tweets existed. There is no one's going to hand over $300 million to a director without doing extreme background checks. Criminals, social media, friends and family, they're going to do a background check because they're going to protect their investment. So
yeah,
I think that's just, I understand why Disney did it. I think that they're not being, they're lying to the rest of us when Iger, the head of Disney, says, "Oh, we didn't know about it. This just came to light, and we need to let him go for these tasteless acts." Yeah,
it's like, it's not actually that much of a thorny situation. The realistic thing of it is that if you want, you can take this as a great big conspiracy theory, which you can do. Like, there's no problem with that. And the reason you could take it as such is actually because you can easily think, oh, this is the reason. Like, we need to get rid of this guy. This is the reason that we've got. Pop. There you go. You're done.
Right.
Like, realistically, that could very easy. What? How am I presenting to everyone?
I don't know.
Who knows? This is a strange and horrific idea. Are you clicking on me? Oh yeah, you're clicking on me.
There we go.
There you go. Thank you.
I turned it off.
Yeah, thank you. It sounded horrible. I was like, oh my god. What? How am I presenting to people? No.
Well, you pulled up the article, so I just wanted to.
No. I didn't see it until I stopped screen sharing, and then immediately it said, "You are presenting to everyone," and I was like, "So what? Is there like an explicit content filter on YouTube Live now? What the hell?" And I was kind of like, "I'm not doing anything." Like, I really did freak me out. But anyway, Mr. Gunn, sadly, has, I think he's angered a whale of some description. He's angered a great big fish. And the great big fish wants to off him. Alternatively, right, there's the very real possibility that there's something worse. And I mean, it's horrible to think about it, but really, like, maybe this was somebody trying to get ahead of something. Like, it could be any number of things. But the ultimate thing to consider is how this could play out in a role-playing circumstance.
Absolutely.
Which actually, it really strikes me as interesting because it's something that I rarely ever see. In storytelling, how do you deal with basically not really the public disgrace, but the public renouncement of a player character or an NPC or anything like that? So the way that we could think of this is like trumped up charges or something like that. I don't think they're trumped up charges because, go figure, these are actual things, and it's just like some dude has decided we don't want this guy around,
right.
Which is that. But in a role-playing setting, it's actually a very particular kind of thing that I think rarely shows up in video game. It rarely shows up in storytelling circumstances, because actually it is a very, it's a lot heavier than other things, than other times would have you believe. It's a very heavy subject matter because it's kind of like, well, does the person deserve to go for having done something bad or something like that? It's a very difficult thing to talk about.
Well, I've got actually two examples, I think, for role playing. One of them I actually used in a game many, many years ago, and the other one is one I just thought of that is hyper specific to the James Gunn situation. So here's the first one that I think is very specific to the James Gunn situation. it is known that the individual that posted James Gunn's old tweets to recently is a known political conservative that wanted to discredit James Gunn, who's an outspoken liberal. And so this was used as the person that did it used it as a political weapon. Basically to say, hey, listen, stop listening to this guy. He did these things. And to discredit the opinions of it's a very common thing politically and such to say, hey, look over here. Here's why you should stop listening to this other individual. And so it came to light, and Disney's just like, we have no interest in politics, and we really don't want the attention. So you've got to go. So see if you could follow me on this train for an RPG idea. Imagine a religious order like a knight or individual that has is held to a very high regard. And so you have this individual, and maybe many years ago in the early part of their career, this knight goes on, violates the tenets of the religious order. For example, let's say there was a large community, 10,000 or more, that needed to be defended, and this knight decided to break away from the army to defend maybe the smaller villages in the area. But the original instructions were to defend the main city. The smaller areas are going to have to defend themselves. And those are the instructions. That's how we're going to maintain our society. And instead takes a cadre of his own people and goes, look, these smaller communities, they don't live behind our city walls. They need defending. Goes out there, tries to defend these smaller communities, for good or bad, maybe succeeds, but is known to need to be punished for it. Right. I'm ignoring the rules. You don't know what you're doing. You're stupid. I'm going out there to defend these smaller communities. Takes him and his cadre, him or her, takes his cadre of people, goes out there. Now, this was many years ago. All right. Comes back, atones for it. I violated the rules. I'm very sorry. Goes back into maybe the private chambers of the religious order. I will perform, I'm guilty of doing this thing. I shirked my duties and ignored the rule of law. So now we fast forward 5, 10, 15 years to present day, and a rival decides to bring that up again. Hey, this person is shouldn't be given, this higher rank of, defending the city because they're irresponsible. You can't trust this knight. Look what they've done. So the community says, well, it was kind of in the past or whatever. So the rival says to them, okay, we have the magic to find out whether this person is truly sorry for what they've done. To truly find out if this person means what they say, let's find out. Let's have the power of the gods decide. So someone and they're playing a gambit here, and then says to this knight, cast a spell on a knight, are you truly repentant for what you've done? And imagine yourself being this individual who's being basically attacked again for something you did in the past. If you've already made amends for that, today you're not sorry about it any longer, right? Meaning in the past, you know what? I'm really sorry for what I did. but maybe truly inside, yes, you've gone through all of the, you've jumped through the hoops, right? You're like, okay, fine, I'm going to sit back, I'm going to take the punishment, you know, whatever you want me to do, fine, I'll get demoted or what have you. But inside, you're like, you know what, I think I did the right thing. But imagine broadcasting that to everyone around you many years later. They maybe used a spell or an inquisitor or something, asked this person, this knight, like, were you sorry? Or is it true that you would never ever break the rules again? And honestly, this person would have to answer like, no. I mean, it depends on if the rules are right or not. And then that in itself could be used as a weapon to say, hey, guess what? He's not, you know, loyal to the order, or loyal to the throne, or loyal to, this person's got their own individuality. And then you end up using that as a way to crack this facade of like purity that this individual has. So that's kind of an idea I had, like could someone twist a good intention and make it seem as if they're like a rebel, that they are the usurper to the public, and that the individual defending themselves couldn't defend themselves because in their heart of hearts, what they did to them, they feel like they did the right thing.
Yeah.
And even in the past, it's like, okay, well, that's over with. And then this person's like, no, I'm going to bring it back up again. And there's nothing you can do about it.
I mean, I like the big thing that I figure hone in on, and I think I really like, this is kind of the thing why I really like your like little encounter things, is that bit where it's like, you've got to ask whether or not you feel sorry. Yeah. You know, because I can imagine it being like, I mean, we're talking about you know, big knights being bigwigs and whether or not they be honorable and shit like that. But thinking about it from another perspective, you could just as easily make it into a wizard. You know, a holier than thou, knows better than everybody in the room, really smart dude, wizard. Yeah. Who does something like, you know, I get the impression that it's just a thing of like, because of the setting, because of the original like offshoot material, you know, I always get the impression of maybe the person should have done something that requires punishment, you know, because, you know, ultimately James Gunn was doing some tasteless jokes. At the time, it was okay, but, you know, at the time it was kind of like considered, meh, you know, like bad, but not exactly something worthy of note. But now it's changed. Well, back then, you know, for your knight idea, rather than going out to defend, rather than breaking orders or anything like that, he could have showed up to work drunk. He could have been derelict of his duty or something like that. You know, it doesn't have to be a great big problem. You know, it could just be a a relatively small thing that just more speaks to his character rather than anything else.
I mean, imagine this knight. Well, first I want to make a comment about what RP Gamer just said. He said could go like those courtroom dramas, and they're stopped for giving reasons and just told to answer yes or no. And I really like that, where you hear, I mean, can you imagine someone who's like lawful evil? And this could play into like that kind of, you know, picking with that kind of alignment where they say, they're using the rules of...
They're using the rules of law to superimpose chaos.
Correct. You have to answer yes or no. And this individual saying, well, I was celebrating the birth of a fellow knight and we got drunk the night before, and then I'm told I've got to go out and defend the countryside, right? So what they did was, I mean, the act of, maybe like you said, derelict of duties, maybe they did get drunk because they were young, or they remembered the old days and they decided to do this thing. And here is this knight who, you know, the other members of the knighthood are like, we've got to hold him up on his horse, and
we've got to tie him to his horse and hope he doesn't snap his neck. Yeah.
And so later on, and then of course he's like, I'm really sorry this happened. The timing was bad, and my fellow warriors stood up for me, but and no one was really supposed to know about it. It wasn't really hidden, but no one really mentioned it again until now. Someone brings it up 8 years later and goes, oh, they were derelict of their duties, this person's not loyal to the crown, and blah 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 blah. And when they're asked, hey, were you sorry what you did, and he answers honestly, well, no, but, and this person cuts him off and is like, well, no more questions, you have your answer right there. This person doesn't care about the crown. And it is a no, but, well, no, I'm not sorry because I was celebrating with my my fellow comrade. The timing was wrong and they never get a chance to answer that. Maybe even, let's say they had a public defender of some sort that was either incompetent or paid not to be efficient or something, or maybe this public defender who's incompetent is like was assigned because of their status, maybe their family name or something, and they weren't able to choose someone who had like a very great ability to defend this knight. And this person who wants to assert power knows this, like, oh, this person has no courtroom experience. Perfect timing,
Alternatively, like one way to ensure that somebody hangs no matter what is just make the PCs the public defenders. Just sit there and go, oh yeah, by the way, guys, you have to defend this possibly disgraced knight from being disgraced, and everyone's just going to be like, no, fuck that, man. I kill people with swords. That's my gig. What do you want me to do?
Exactly. Well, Prue says the knight could have been involved in an innocent death during the defending of the countryside, and now it is used to remove him from stepping up to a position of power. I mean, yeah, right. I mean, how many times has a PC been involved in a battle or something? Let's assume the innocent died through the course of normally defending the countryside. They were attacked by a goblinoid horde. The knights didn't get there in enough time. An innocent dies. Okay, well, they would, no offense, but they would have died anyway had the knights not been there. But of course, the knights are there. This person dies. Maybe one member of the family has always held this like kind of weird grudge against the knighthood. And this person who wants to assert power goes, you know what? I'm gonna fuel that anger. I'm going to use that person as the knight did not perform their knightly duties, even though maybe in the course of the defending the countryside, maybe the orders were they weren't even supposed to even be there. The family would have been slaughtered, including the individual who lost a loved one and is still holding the grudge. I mean, how many times does that happen where people are pissed off? Oh, the police got here late. Well, there's a good chance they might have not shown up at all. Let alone the ambulance showed up late. My loved one wouldn't have died if you'd have gotten here earlier. Well, you know what? You're lucky we got here at all, because there could have been a number of things that could have happened. And then people get upset. I'm going to sue the police. I'm going to sue the ambulance company for not getting here in 3 minutes. It took them 11 minutes. And you're thinking, well, normal, any other person would take them 25 to get there. So those things could really happen. Prue says, was the innocent death A, actually on purpose, and the drink was a cover, or B, maybe drink triggered the unfortunate accident, or C, maybe the event would have happened anyway? Who knows? And
I think that's going to be the big, the big pushing point. And I think that's kind of the pushing point of Mr. Gunn here. people have been attributing this, like, I straight up didn't know that it was like some conservative fuckwit who was like trying to pull this around. So I apologize in advance, like in retrospect to things, but it still is kind of the thing now that, as a result of Me Too and Harvey Weinstein and stuff like that, Hollywood has been instituting a bit more stringent, not really ties, but like just the idea of like covering their asses. Basically, they're a lot more stringent about doing that, and like it could just be that the actor, like the unknowability of the circumstance is what has more hoisted Mr. Gunn than anything else. And similarly, the Knight. I mean, you can zone of truth him as much as you want, and then straight up just ask him what happened, and he could just go, "I was drunk out of my mind. I do not remember."
Right.
But then it becomes a thing of like, well, you're a knight, supposed to be held up to a higher standard than everybody else. What were you doing, shit-faced?
Right. And like Prue makes a point here where it says, do the people that matter care if there is blame to place or not? Right. So imagine this knighthood, the higher echelon is saying, we need to hold ourselves to a higher standard, realistic or not. Right. We need to show the public that we are a united front of individuals that are that have no mortal weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
And because that's their image, and that image carries weight to defend the country. The average person may say, you know what, that's unrealistic to expect all these knights to never have any vices. But their purpose, part of their purpose, their I guess their operating procedure may be like, listen, we have to be a united front. That's our power. That's where we half the conflicts we don't get into is because people think that we are above reproach. And so when a knight is shown to have, hey, I just got drunk this one time, or sure, I had a fight with a loved one before I went out to battle, or something like that. Or, I forgot to don my armor in the correct manner, and it fell off while I was riding out to the countryside or something. Simple things that people forget, or innocent, not innocent, but shall we say human traits that people have, even if they're small or they're little quirks. It could be that an organization needs to present a front that they don't have those things, that they're not subject to that. And in many ways, like politicians and the people, presidents and prime ministers and such, are viewed, people in religious, the higher ends of religious orders in our world are kind of viewed that way. Like you're supposed to be better than human, and that could be viewed as unrealistic, but everyone accepts the fact that you are in a position where you're supposed to be above reproach. And that could be an easy way for people to take others down, because in effect it's a level that no one could ever reach and maintain. You could never be a person that has never had any skeletons in their closet, even of the most minor sort. And I could imagine someone who's evil, or not even just evil, but just like feels okay. They feel they could do a better job, and these other individuals need to be taken out of their position because, hey, I've never gotten a chance to move up in the knighthood because they've been there for, their family legacy has always kept them in the higher echelons. I want to move up. This is my method. This is my way to pull them down. And thinking, let's assume that this usurper is a good person, right? They have great ideas to defend the country, to perform the same job. And now they're engaging in shall we say, like underhanded activity to promote their own agenda, to pull these other people out of their positions, to pull them down a rung on the ladder, so that this other person who feels that they're better at defending the people and placing their honor above everyone, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I can see you could use this, but I think you would have to have a legacy of other adventures.
Yeah. And
then have the results of those other adventures come forward. So now I'm going to bring up the second one that I actually did use this one. And it came about by accident, but I'll tell you. A covered wagon was brought into the city, and it was brought into the city by, I think it was an ogre, a bugbear, and a half-orc. And they were goblinoid evil entities or whatever, and they come into the city, and the people are all appalled and find them to be like, we should kill them on sight or whatnot. But they sent a messenger so that they could talk to the ruling council. They get to the ruling council. Now, I think the ogre was reading a book. The ogre was reading a book. The bugbear was wearing a crown, and the half-orc had a glowing stone floating around their head. Okay, that's an important part of this story. So they go in front of the ruling council, and they say, listen, we want to be recognized, our goblinoid country, we want to be recognized as an individual country. We want to have a seat on the ruling council. We want to be recognized as a nation. And they uncover the wagon, and there's nothing but dead pregnant goblinoids and dead babies in it. And
oh, Jesus Christ!
I actually used this, and what they did was the book was an old AD&D. Like, if you read it, your intelligence goes up. It was one of those grimoires or tomes or something that if you read it, your intelligence goes up. The bugbear had like a crown that increases your intelligence, magic item, and then the half-orc had an iron stone that increased your intelligence. And so they became this triumvirate that was like trying to organize them, and ends up getting a seat on the council by blaming the Knights Order for going out and causing genocide on their people, and twisted the whole we're goblinoids and we're just going to like ravage the countryside into you're punishing us because you hate us because you're basically racist. And they end up getting a seat on the council, and the heroes who were stuck in the basically enemy territory were now the council basically considered them to be engaging in an act of war by attacking the goblinoid country. And so the player characters had to leave and get out of there as fast as they could. So the adventure was kind of the opposite. Instead of going towards a place, they had to get back home. And they knew that if they could kill them and if the goblinoids could kill them, they could just make them like, hey, this is why we became a nation amongst ourselves, and you're engaging in war with us. And now they'd have a perfect reason, legal reason, to attack their now allies in a way. Yeah. It was a big political thing. But and I used that off of what's the beginning adventure? Caves of Chaos. Keep on the Borderlands. I used it after a Keep on the Borderlands thing. Yeah. Jared says gentrification against the goblinoids.
Here's actually the big here was actually the big question, mate. Was it all that, like, I'm just straight up interested. Was it all a plot? Like, or was it straight up that these goblinoids just wanted, they just didn't want to fucking fight no more? Like was it straight up like we want to become a country, or was it, you know, because the thing is, right, I'm pretty sure that you, like, if you were doing it like 20 odd years ago or something like that, that this would be really novel. But if you're doing it 10 years ago, you would actually be doing it at the same time as the Forgotten Realms is Obold Many Arrows. Basically, like this, for those of you who don't know and don't keep up with the fucking convoluted bollocks of the Forgotten Realms, basically there was this one point in the story where there was this dude, there was this orc, and he wasn't like, they made it very clear he wasn't a half orc. He was a full-blooded orc who was as intelligent as Elminster. Like he was really, really intelligent, and he became like the High King of all orcs in Faerun. Like, and then he basically came along and he said, "Okay, I want to establish a kingdom, and we're going to claim this area that we claim as being our ancestral lands. And we will fight to keep this land, but know that we are basically suing for peace every step of the way. We don't want to fight you. We just want our land back." So, you know, there's this thing. But the big thing that happened was that like 6 years later, and actually in 5th edition, it came up again. Yeah. This was all a big con, basically. All the stuff that Many Arrows was bringing up about how you know, basically it was basically a war of attrition, that the orcs were just outright losing. That you know, no matter how angry and mean we can be to some village, you can decimate a city of ours in days. You know, it's like you know, like it's just kind of talking about it. And the big thing of it was that that's a really powerful political question that should be asked, you know, about the give and take of a chaotic society versus an order society. But then it was completely irrelevated because like it came down from on top. This was all Grumpsh One Eye's big con of trying to end the world, basically. And they should not have trusted Ubold. They should not have thought of giving peace a chance. They should not have done any of these things. And it has like characters who took part in that circumstance basically say, yeah, that's right. I regret having done that, and I would not have done it again. Kill the fuckers, kill them all. Right. And like they really kind of like, I remember it because I remember reading the books when it first came out, when 5th edition first came out. And it was kind of like Cassie Bree, who is seen as this kind of like archetypal, like not ranger, but she's married to Drista Erden, and Drista Erden is the archetypal beastmaster, and she's the archetypal kind of ranger as spiritual guide. So she uses magic and these kind of things, but all the same, there is this scene where they're talking about this, and she's like, no. Kill every single one of them, even the children. We need to kill all the orcs. They need to all die because they are all like wantonly, just corrosively evil. And I was I'm fucking interested, dude. Was it a con? You got to tell me.
Well, okay. I will tell you this. In the beginning, it was not a con. It was well, in my mind, I was, you know, I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons. You've got a ton of modules and stuff. And I said, wouldn't it be cool if, like, the player characters, I mean, they want to kill these things every chance they got, and they just couldn't because they're walking the streets and they're, you know, integrated in society. And I thought that would be cool. And then the players came up with the idea that this is probably a con. And I went, you know what? That would be sweet. And at the time, I honestly was not a very big Forgotten Realms person. I still not, but I just thought that, and granted, it wasn't the most original idea in the world. You know, the great big double cross, but yeah, I just thought like, keep on the Borderlands. Yep. Oh man, and in that it okay. um, slight history. Keep on the Borderlands has one of those caves where they have the pregnant ladies and the babies, and
yeah,
you know,
like
and
it was well known for having that bit where there was two. It's literally two rooms, and one room has a bunch of baddies with like magic items, and then in the other room there's just screaming children and two women taking care of them. It's a horrific sight. Yeah,
and they never. I get it, but there was never any. There were no instructions. There was no preamble, like no big giant warning in red letters that goes, "Hey, game masters, this situation is going to cause a lot of stress and strife for your player." There was none of that, and it just became the seminal. Are you playing your alignment? Should you kill him? Should you not? It was a whole. It just became this running. It's not a gag, but like a running trope of the murder hobo. The concept of the murder hobo, because even Unscripted and Unchained said at the heart of every adventurer is a murder hobo just waiting to emerge. And and essentially that's where that, I don't want to say that's where it came from, but that was that was the thing you could put a pin in and say, you're a murder hobo. If you didn't even hesitate, you're just like, let's just kill them and take their stuff, versus the group of players that were like, maybe we should think about this. And that's all goblin kids and goblin pregnant ladies, like that's always been the what would you do if situation. And so
it's one of the sadder side effects, because actually what Jared Premont was saying, Jared Premont put up that Faerun is terrible. Hot take, motherfucker, hot take. But if you steal a few select vertical slices from the setting, you can come up with a great place for an adventure. And like, I agree with everything he said, except for the terrible thing. I may be working in the industry. I don't want to piss off WoTC. But no, actually, I do agree. Faerun could bugger off. But the main reason why I think Faerun could bugger off is because what they've been doing recently, and by recently, I mean since like 2014, when 5th edition came out. It's still an ongoing thing, so it could be that it's swinging round, maybe it's changing, something like that. But that thing that I was telling you guys about Catty Bree, who is like this very spiritual person, kind of saying, no, kill all the orcs, we need to kill them, we can't kill them fast enough, kind of thing. That seems to be the direction that they're pushing for in regards to orcs and goblins and goblinoids, because how like the orcs are put forward in like the monster manual and stuff like that is that they're kind of like antithetical to reason discussion, cannot hold negotiations properly. Ubold and Drista Erden and the monster PCs who are anything other than the basic alignment, they are the aberrations that are absolute aberrations that don't exist anywhere else. So ironically, like even though TSR put forward the idea of like keep on the borderland, what do you do if Wizards of the Coast has actually switched that around, because in Faerun it's an absolutely clear answer. The morally correct thing to do is to off a bunch of women and children. And I thinking about court saying, "Oh, women, we must protect the women." No, let's just say non-combatants. Like, just you have to kill some civilians, non-combatants, these kind of things, which makes me sad. It honestly makes me very sad about that.
I think it's a tool that can be used, right? So, for example, let's take two examples. Let's say you want to create a world where there is a lot of gray area, that in your world there is no such thing as any humanoid / goblinoid that is specifically destined to become a specific alignment and behavior. You can throw in the little bit of chocolate in your bowl of vanilla by saying that one or more types of beings in your world are absolutely positively irrevocably evil, and then that in itself could create tension when everyone else is on the grayscale. So for example, as a world creator, you can say, guess what, in my world, the bugbear, they're just evil. There's no redeeming them at all. Now, maybe the people they hang around, maybe so. It's based on the nurturing that they're given. But bugbears, no. Bugbears are completely evil. And then the tension can come up with where, let's take the knighthood again. The knighthood wants to have complete genocide against these bugbears, and everyone else is going, maybe we should give them a chance. And the knighthood's going, hey, let's look at our old text. Every time we've given them chances, they've bitten us in the ass. And when a new regime comes in, let's go back to what we were talking about, where this new person usurps power from the knights and steps into the part of power, and then says, let's talk to them again. Let's invite them to the table. And everyone's going, you don't want to do that. Like, the true knights are like, listen, you've removed me from power and I get it, but you cannot trust them. And everyone else is saying, maybe you're just being a little bit too extreme on this ideal of wanting to murder and kill, and of course the person in power is going, see, look at them. They're just bloodthirsty. They're not about justice and forgiveness and truth. And so I think you can use that as a tool. I think the harder one would be that if you have nothing but murder hobos and your world is just black and white, to throw in the random goblinoid that has, facets of goodness and law, because chances are your murder hobos are just going to kill them anyway. But you could throw that in there if you want to slowly get your players away from being straight up murder hobos. You could throw in the casual goblin that just wants to live and is willing to work with the players to guide them to where the treasure is and then leaves them alone, or the general orc scouts that want to leave the other goblinoid horde and it's like, look, we just want to live our lives. We don't want to fight. We don't want to kill anybody. We just want to leave, so I think it could be used as a tool. You just got to be really careful with it.
Now quickly, just popping back on Jared, Jared Premont, because Mr. Premont asked, so what's the theme? And I think that we have kind of moved away from what was initially the theme, because in the conversation that we're having, I'm pretty sure that what we're talking about is clear, but for anyone outside, probably they're not really getting like where we were going with it. Basically, the point of the James Gunn thing, the discussion that we have, it's nothing. There is actually nothing that us two sitting on the internet can talk about that's actually very cogent about the circumstance itself, about Mr. Gunn getting fired. What we can make a comment on is whether or not the answer, whether or not the response that was given was correct, whether or not it was a measured response, whether or not it was correct of Disney to make the decisions, blah blah blah, and that part becomes what is the basis of what we're talking about, because we have to think about because we're thinking about, is it a measured response for somebody to be punished for something that they had done a long time ago? That's kind of what we're talking about in relation to that. Is the punishment that they would receive now good, like relative, proportionate to the time and the distance and the lack of pain that, like the time that's been and things have changed and stuff like that? That is kind of where we come to. And that's where we kind of came from with Mr. DeVay, with his fantastic story of basically a group of people trying to hold a society to account for a war crime, because that's what it was. It was a fucking war crime.
Right.
And then it becomes a situation of like, well, sadly, there is this thing going on in fantasy where even though racism exists, it's not really racism, because there's a reason, because basically the people are justified in their hate. A lot of people say orcs are supposed to be like an analog for like the old archetypal idea of, you know, what people used to think of as black slaves, you know, African Americans, you know, basically civil rights. That is a theory. Yeah. The problem that comes up is black people don't walk around literally burning the world to the ground. Like that's the difference. In fantasy, we like to make it more gray by making the people who are being discriminated against often not as like not as innocent, which, you know, that kind of makes it a bit difficult. That kind of makes it a bit more, you know, problematic, I guess you could say. And that kind of brings up the question of like, can you realistically bring it to account? Because generally speaking, the society, the fantasy, the community in general, want to hold people to this old idea of what an orc is. But the basis of what orcism is, the basis of what an orc is an elf that has been corrupted by the literal source of all evil into being an actively corrosive influence on the world. Like, it's not really talked about that much in the films and stuff like that, but the basis of where orcs come from, you know, Tolkien, like, Mordor was not like that because Sauron. Mordor was a blasted, horrible wasteland because of all the orcs that lived there. They make it actively not good to live in. And, you know, like, that's me rambling as fuck, but, you know, I'm nicking RP's idea.
Right. Yeah, Jared brings up, it says, actually, the orcs in Tolkien were inspired from the Turks, or rather the Ottoman Empire, but no one wants to talk about that in public. And Unscripted Unchained says orcs are the slave raider conquered society and such. And, you know, you have to, not have to, but it's a matter of, you're always going to have the players, when they get into that argument about whether they should kill the orc babies or not. It's like, well, their society may cultivate that chaos and evil, or rather the evil. It doesn't matter if they're chaotic or neutral evil or lawful evil or what have you. But if their own culture cultivates that evil and you let them go, the idea is that, hey, we just kill them all, then they're fine. And on the other hand, you have the players that are like, well, they should have their own choices. Hey, we could just raise them or something like that. So, yeah, it's just, okay, what have you. So there's a chance that essentially you could create a situation where you have people engaging in what do you say, like, dialogue with these individuals, with the enemy, and coming to a situation where they find out that they can't be rehabilitated. This is where the players may be forced, if they want to get into the moral gray of it, and find out that, you know what, we really do have to organize and eliminate them or something, or always fight against them, especially if they're like demon spawned or whatever. Yeah, I mean, there's a chance that you know, you could have a situation where okay, what the hell's going on in the chat?
I think what's his name? I think you're being what's his name?
Yeah.
Fucking can't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
Let's like these look like spam bots, seeing as they have posted like 7 times in the last.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
In the last like 3 seconds.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to talk and do the thing at the same time. Bruce giving me a thumbs. Like, yeah, okay, there we go. So, okay, now we. I wasn't trying to go down the rabbit hole with this whole like nature versus nurture thing, but I do think that we do need to switch the subject a little bit. Because that really wasn't my intention.
I think we need to move away from it because we're immediately going into the inevitable alignment argument, prisoner dilemma. Oh bugger.
Yeah. Okay. I wanted to bring up RPG news and talk about its importance or the lack thereof. I wanted to bring up WoTC breaking the mold and releasing the setting of Ravnica, releasing the setting of Eberron, and then also releasing. I'm trying to move this away because it's just getting in the way. Sorry, guys. And releasing. Oh, what is it called? Oh, Dragon Heist. That's it. Dragon Heist. All right, so the one theme that WoTC seems to be in these releases are adventures in a city. So Ravnica is a setting from Magic the Gathering in which an entire planet is one big giant medieval city that covers the entire planet, or maybe the whole plane. Maybe it's not a planet. Maybe it's just completely flat. That I don't know. So Ravnica is from Magic the Gathering. Eberron is from the 90s.
It's from I believe it's from the 2000s actually. It's from third edition.
And it's from third edition, and it was a contest put out for creators to come up with a new setting. And this person, it's generally known as Arcanopunk in many ways. And WoTC has referred to it as not high magic or low magic, but wide magic. So low levels of magic are used to replace what we would consider technology today, or magic is used there in this medieval society as technology is used today. So the most recognizable is the lightning rail, which is a train system powered by an elemental that runs on a electromagnetically charged arcane rail line. That's and Warforged, of course, the big thing. And lastly, they've released Dragon Heist, and I believe it's released in parts, which is like a inner city heist thing that takes place in Forgotten Realms. Yeah. So I just wanted to talk about the release of this, the fact that they've broken their 3-book release schedule, and what does it mean for WoTC, and like why have they done it, and is this good or bad, and that kind of thing. So are you familiar with it, or do you know about it, or what happened?
I know about the I know that the what's his name, shite, I can't get it correctly, the creepy fuckwits who are trying to sandbag us are kind of actually distracting me. But in any case, I
may just hide the whole thing. So
so I do know about Ravnica. I do know about Eberron. I didn't know that they had done this at the expense of their kind of 3-day 3 release schedule. Really, I thought that this was just something that they released on the GM's Guild in an attempt to kind of get up to kind of curry favor to see whether or not they can accrue some kind of interest in it. Because at the moment people are really bending into the escapist fantasy, kind of high fantasy thing of the Forgotten Realms. You know, that's where they've been going. They've been fostering a lot of care to go into that, and they had, with Curse of Strahd, they had Bavaria and the yeah, it's called Bavaria, isn't it, with Curse of Strahd?
Yes, if I'm not mistaken.
It's Raven. You know, it's Ravenloft,
Yeah, Raven.
but the area that they're in, Curse of Strahd, is I believe it's called Bavaria. But anyway, they had a little outing towards it, you know, for that. And now maybe they've come back to do, you know, like Tomb of Annihilation and everything like that. Maybe they just now want to see if they can go out again and see. The thing that really strikes me as interesting with Eberron is how they're basically, like, as far as I could see from the book that they've released, they're surprisingly more basing itself towards what Eberron's world is like, rather than talking about the meta plot of the court intrigue and the end of the and you know the aftermath of the Great War. There doesn't seem to be that much regarding that, which, you know, like, it just is a new, different perspective to take. And maybe what they're doing is that they're kind of positioning the Eberron setting rather than what was before with Keith Baker and his kind of wish to have it be like an ongoing story of things changing as the books get released. Now they're trying to establish it as a setting with these setting materials, with these setting modules kind of going around.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I think back in the 90s, TSR, first of all, they were producing a ton of material for a number of settings. Some have come and gone, others have stayed around for a long time. Forgotten Realms, Eberron, which came later. What's the other setting? The Ravenloft, Dark Sun are like legacy ones that have stood the test of time. And in all of those, there was a kind of a meta plot behind it that time was moving forward. So Forgotten Realms specifically, because with Forgotten Realms, they had a lot of novels that took place in that world that was advancing the years and advancing the meta plot of Forgotten Realms, that there were ages, that things were happening over a course of a period of time, and that it, outside of Dungeons and Dragons, the most egregious form of this was by Wizards of the Coast, that literally, not Wizards of the Coast, sorry, White Wolf, the White Wolf game, they literally began it at a beginning, had a meta plot that went through their gaming system, and it actually ended. So it actually went through times as you were buying the products. They were culminating into the Great Jihad, where Gehenna, when the ancient vampires would rise up, and they did, and it literally ended the vampire reign and then started all over again.
Yeah,
I think now, while that's an interesting method of producing gaming materials, almost as if the people that are buying it are following a storyline, I'm sure WoTC now is going, well, let's drop the storyline and just give them a setting, a framework, the tools that they can use and play in that setting, and divorcing it from the idea that this will age itself to another period of time, which I like. And also, you know, some people were saying that, like, that I from the outside see WoTC trying, I don't want to say pleasing, but trying to hit each age group of player. So for example, in each age group and each divergent method. So for example, Forgotten Realms is one of their biggest IPs, and so I believe that they set a lot of things in there. And I was hoping that they would not do this, that they wouldn't try to shoehorn all of the lesser IPs into Forgotten Realms. And it seemed like they were doing that. Like, for example, Tomb of Annihilation takes place in Forgotten Realms, when normally it actually, not Tomb of Annihilation. Okay, what's the Greyhawk was the setting of a number of their actual adventures.
Yeah, Greyhawk was the first. It was the place where Gygax and Arneson and Pritchard, one of the guys was the person who came up with the Dark Forces and the Dark Ones and stuff like that. So like there was somebody who came up with the wider cosmos, and that was the original one. And then as time has kind of gone on, and then it grew into the second edition with TSR. They wanted to expand it, so they brought in Ed Greenwood, who at the time was like 13. He was really, really young when it came in. But yeah,
just to go back just a little bit, the bot powered down, and there are some people that are actually in the chat that mentioned a couple of things. Unscripted Unchained says, I believe WoTC is trying to monetize an old content rather than create a whole new setting, which we're going to talk about that in a minute. Vincent Shine joined in. Well, he says, well, there's a lot of interesting settings out there already which are not supported anymore. And I think that they're in a precarious position because there's no way they can please everyone. Right.
Yeah.
But that combined with the fact that they have reduced the number of setting material bits and pieces means that somebody's going to have to wait a little longer for their favorite dish to come out of the buffet.
Yeah.
And so I think what they're trying to do now, in terms of like mistakes and such, is that this looks like they're clearly not trying to shoehorn everything into Forgotten Realms.
Yeah.
Whereas some of the other materials, it seemed like that's what they were doing.
Yeah. Like they could, like, it's something to keep in mind in regards to this is from the various and sundry things that he does, the bigwig himself, Mike Merles, he is actually very open about what directions he takes things in. Like this was actually why this was kind of a big surprise, was because he hasn't talked about it. It kind of came out of left field. But one thing that he is often very, very clear about is he does not do things that is not seen as a sound position that is being supported by the most clear one being surveys, sound data, and the big data is surveys. From a recent survey asking about settings and stuff like that, Eberron punched highest, and I think that was pretty much entirely because of the Eberron like supplement thing that they released, the free one, which was Unearthed Arcana. That was it. And it had the Warforged, and it had the Artificer, and it had the Shifters. The three big things about Eberron. And I get the feeling that everyone was kind of like, I remember that when I did it, I remember putting Eberron up as one of the settings that I wanted to see. But really, I wanted to see Dark Sun and Birthright, but I'm pretty sure that I'm one of the 5 people who remember what Birthright is. That's just kind of the thing. What Mike Merles, as kind of product designer, the guy who's all about producing the long-term plans for D&D, he's probably being very, very careful and moving forward. The one that really kind of strikes out is actually the book about Ravnica. The first thing was that when I first saw it, when a friend of mine who's a big Magic the Gathering player, he told me, dude, they're making supplements for D&D which are linking into Magic the Gathering. And I was like, well, that's what Plane Shift is. They've already produced loads and loads. But it's like, no, they're doing it. And with the exception of the setting kind of being etherpunk the same way, like magic, technology is magic kind of thing. There isn't that much, they're two entirely different settings, which it strikes me as very, very interesting why they would come up with Ravnica. They would pick specifically Ravnica to bring forward.
Well, I think because this is also brought up in the chat a little bit, is I think that the idea of Ravnica is a city, part of Magic Gathering, and it is a giant city, and so bringing that up now, I think came about from the success of the plane shifts that they've done with like Zendikar, Amonkhet, what's the other two? Anyway, they did the plane shift articles where they put them out for free. Maybe they're each like 8 to 15 pages long or more, of how you would play in these realms. And I think Ravnica comes up just because like Eberron is one aspect of Eberron is the noir investigation type in a big towering city of Sharn, and the Dragon Heist is also one that Ixalan and Innistrad are the other two for plane shift articles, and those are free. Ixalan, Innistrad, Zendikar, and then this Ravnica you'll have to pay for. But I believe that the Magic the Gathering people, we have to remember that with the role-playing section is not the moneymaker. It's Magic the Gathering. Magic the Gathering is supporting our ability to role play in many ways. Okay, that's their money. If they can pull those people who are willing to spend money into role playing, Amonkhet, yes, that's the other one. If they can pull those people that are generating money into role playing, much better. And I think it's much better to sell that to the bigwigs, the bean counters, to keep the role-playing side alive. Also, many of us who play role-playing games have gone into Magic Gathering. Like I still have my cards. I don't have a Black Lotus, but I wish I did. But I still have the original cards, like the original set. I started playing Magic the Gathering when it originally came out, and I still have thousands of those cards from the original. So, lastly, do you know how much art costs? It is hideously expensive. They have a treasure trove of old art, unused art, and artists who have already been contracted, under contract, that they can go back. They can fill a ton of books with art. Now, Mike Mearls has admitted that they've contracted other art pieces that are more suited to a book than a card, simply because they can't put certain elements in a card that is more enticing in a book when you can have like a full page spread. Or have you ever seen like, well, they'll print words, but underneath it is a watermark of artwork, things like that.
That was the thing that I was sort of saying. You know, the whole card. They called like mass cards or something like that. You know. Yeah.
Holy shit! Proof says a Black Lotus just sold for $87,000 the other day.
You see, hearing that news makes me kind of just go, Magic is fucking madness. It is insane that somebody was willing to sell to buy, like, not even. My calendar fell off the wall. And I punched the wall so hard. That's how Magic does. That's what Magic does to me. No, it doesn't. But it's madness to actually think, shit, I'm going to, for a bit of polystyrene, plastic, and card, I'm going to spend 80 grand. 80 fucking... I could live on that. I could live on that for a year, legitimately. Like, what? That is madness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I will, it... And this is kind of, I think, some of the worry that comes up about Magic, which is, do we want to do the upright and perfectly nice with absolutely no problems, hang-ups, or difficulties, perfect, pure, innocent role players want anything to do with the kind of people who will spend thousands and thousands of dollars, money, real money, bankrupting money on a card game.
Yeah.
And the real answer is, of course you do, because you're the same people. I mean, I'm a role player and I haven't played Magic in fucking decades, and I have a Magic deck upstairs. I have a Magic deck right here, like in fucking hand's reach. Just got it from, like, a friend of mine literally gave it to me for free. Didn't even make me pay for it. You know, like, they're endemic. They're everywhere. They're like Lego.
Yep. And these guys are talking like, Jared says, is there a $5 card called Gilded Lotus? And Prue says, we don't have a restricted list in D&D. Okay, so yeah,
we do.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Prue, you and I will never get along, mate. We do. We have a restricted list. Have you ever had a situation where someone said no cursed items? Someone's gone no evil alignment. That's a restricted list. Sorry, dude. I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's so silly. But okay, so we have to understand that Wizards of the Coast has to make money. It's a business. I understand, you know, people are like, oh my God, they keep going back to the same old, but it's a business. Just like movies, which are another of my favorite. We wonder why they keep remaking things, and it's because the title itself has value because it's recognizable. And if they can, like, I feel that the background of the Magic the Gathering, not the cards, I'm talking about the information that they included with the background of the cards, is strangely enough has more depth than it really needs to have. I like the flavor text at the bottom of the cards. I like the idea of you know, traveling to another plane of existence, and this is what it's like. And I hope that this is Wizards' new method of planar travel, kind of like
it would be an interesting way of kind of like expanding Planescape to be outside of the of the D&D cosmology.
Right, because thanks for agreeing with me, Prue. But remember, the old D&D cosmology was based around the outer planes were based around the old alignment ring. Right, you had the neutral in the middle, and then you had like law and chaos, good and evil on the outer spokes, and you went around the spoke, and you could go up and down to the planes and such. But alignment no longer is. It's not the motivating force it has, because it's just one of those things that just causes such problems. It's just basically a legacy carryover. And
it is a massive legacy carryover. And right. Mike Mills has actually said, like, if it was up to him, and this is kind of something to say of one of the, not really detriments, but one of the side effects of the survey-based way of doing things, you know, kind of like market testing and shit like that. In one of I remember this because I took part in the playtesting and stuff like, you know, I was part of the playtesting. In one of the playtests, they just basically said, there is no alignment in this setting, in this playtest. And according to him, everybody kind of came back and said, we want alignment back. And then he kind of went back, and so he then introduced the old first edition version of alignment, where it wasn't like the triumvirate. It wasn't like the X and the Y. It was just like the Y-axis, where you just said, do you believe in order? Do you believe in chaos? Or do you believe in neutrality? And literally, like, it just said, if you believe in chaos, that doesn't mean that you hate order. It just means that you believe in your personal autonomy over the goodness of the people. And order is the opposite. It's like you prefer order. You prefer the order of the people, the community, over personal autonomy. And like, you know, they try to shape it. But according to him, they turned around and went, no, we want the straight up alignment system. Like the vast majority, at least the, you know, not the vast majority, but enough people were unhappy with having the alignment removed. But it becomes more problematic because the longer you have the alignment in there, the more you have people who are just objectively evil, you know?
Right.
Like, yeah.
Right. But Vincent and Prue actually bring up something where Vincent says magic cards are awesome for inspiration.
Oh, yeah.
And then Prue says, I've written 3 one-shots off Magic the Gathering booster packs after watching a Fistful of Dice vid, which I did the same thing.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Even in a recent Nerdarchy video, someone asked the question of, could you use a deck of magic cards for random encounters and such? And I think
I remember that, yeah.
Right. And I think that I understand that people want original content, but I think Magic can be mined for some great background. And I could really imagine if you removed the Magic card game and just had cards that were the art, I guarantee that those would sell, right? Just a stack of cards, a deck of cards with a theme to it, whether it's like, I don't mean color wise. I'm saying even remove the color coding, right? Like blue or green or whatever, and just go, these are Zendikar cards. Here's a deck of like 60 or 75 cards or 80 cards or something. It's the artwork. You can use them to hand them out to the players. You can use them for NPCs, locations, and just have the artwork itself. I could see that selling. And what a great way to create not just encounters, but to shape something into your world, or not in your world, but even, hey, you're visiting this other place and you pull a card out, and this is the king, and you pull another card out, and these are his lackeys, and these are the creatures sitting at the, you know, the base of the throne or something like that. Or you come across this strange elemental or what have you. And I just think there's a lot of information there to mine. Now here is a conundrum I think they're going to have some conflict with. And you're going to get different opinions, because I brought this up with a video, because I did a video where I just I wasn't on screen. I just kind of paged through the plane shift articles. But so I'm going to bring this up to you so we can kind of talk about them, about this problem that WoTC is going to have. Okay, WoTC has can mine Magic the Gathering because each time they release new cards, it has a theme to it, like Zendikar, Innistrad, Dominaria, Ravnica. How much information should they print in book form when they create these things? So for example, the plane shift articles are like, hey, here's some flavor text. They give you the flavor text and they go, we have some races, some creatures, some magic. Here's how we would change it. But they don't reprint all of the stat blocks. They haven't reprinted all of the races. They haven't reprinted all of the magic spells, right? Because they basically go, hey, in this world, goblins are like this. Refer to this other book. Humans are like this. Refer to this other book. Should they, here, let me give you the extreme. One is plane shift exists. They don't print anything. If you want to play in Zendikar, you want to play in Ixion, you want to play in Amonkhet, go print out plane shift, we're done. Okay?
Yeah.
The other extreme is we're going to produce a 250, 300-page book that has all the information you need, so you do not need to refer to another book. A game system that has done this would be Fantasy Flight Games.
Yeah.
Where Fantasy Flight has a full book. If you want to play Edge of the Empire, you can play that game, buy that book, you're done.
Yeah.
Or you can buy, what's another Star Wars, Edge of the Empire, oh, my brain just the Rebel one, and the Jedi book.
You're barking up the wrong tree. I don't play Star Wars.
Okay, well, Fantasy Flight.
Star Wars Fantasy Flight's life. There you go.
You guys know in the chat.
Yeah.
You guys can put it in there. My point being is that Fantasy Flight Games has. I'm just making an example. They've got 3 books. They've got you're playing on the edge of the Empire, or you're playing Jedi, or you're playing Rebels.
Yeah.
All 3 books have the same rule system, and you can mix and match them if you want.
Yeah.
But if you purchase 2 books, in those books they have the exact same rule systems printed twice.
Yeah.
And that's become a problem. Some people say, well, why should I spend $60 on one book and then spend another $60 on another book? You've wasted space. You've reprinted the same things. And so Wizards of the Coast is now going to have to think, when they print Ravnica, are they going to put out 80 creature stat blocks and 50 pages of spells in a Ravnica book, or are they going to make this a thin, flimsy, and say, hey, if you want goblins, if you want a fireball, if you want paladins, you're just going to have to refer back to the player's guide. You know what I mean? Someone, when I did my other video, mentioned the old box sets, right? The old box sets had everything you need in the box. If you need these creatures, we've got stats for the creatures. You want modifications to the classes, we've got that in there. We've got our spells, we've got everything, we've got maps, we've got everything you need. But some people didn't buy the box set because they're like, well, I've already got that. If I need to change it, all I need to do is just reskin what I need. Why are you printing 150 pages of material I don't want? So I think that's going to be to me, I think that's their challenge.
I agree with you. I'm saying I agree with you, and I don't want to make it sound like I disagree with you. Because I'm trying to kind of come up with a more nuanced method of kind of putting it. Basically, Fantasy Flight's mistake was it was printed. The books that they produced, you were right. They actually did it with another system. It was Fantasy Flight's, like what you just described with Star Wars. That was Fantasy Flight's method of producing role-playing books for a good decade. I don't have any of them here. I threw half of my stuff into the sun when I moved up to York. But they produced a lot of role-playing games from a game called Anima. I think I have that one. Oh no! Oops. That went bad. That went wrong. This Anima Beyond Fantasy. I managed to get it on the cheap, and it was really, really nice. Oh dear! One of my birds died. Oh, my bird died.
No.
What a pity. Anyway, it's lucky I got it for free. Yeah. Anyway, so they produced a game, and it's called Anima: The Beyond Fantasy, and that rule book, right, is the basic rule book. If you buy any of the other books in the series, you basically get that minus the spells and some of the lore and stuff. And then you get the new information. So basically, you're buying the same book, like you're saying, you're buying the same book multiple times. They did the same with the Warhammer role-playing games, where they produced 6 or 7 books, like book series, and they all had the exact same system. They produced those and printed them and sold them, and they made people spend £40 a pop sometimes in order to get these books. These are put up on the DM's Guild. These are put up for free mostly, unless there's going to be a big change and they're going to start producing print to order or some kind of print thing. I don't think there's really going to be that much of an issue. Not because I disagree. Not because I don't think that what you're saying is going to happen, like the PDF. Like there's still the thing of like you buy the PDF. Well, let's say that they standardize the price of everything and they make everything like let's say $15 or something like that. Which would be about £11. Yeah, you're still spending £10 every single time to buy like the same set of rules, the same set of whatever. That's still a problem. But it is muted a little bit because you're using a PDF, and there is this expectation with PDFs that actually there would be some kind of overlap. There would be some kind of methodology. So I think that that is going to be an issue. That is going to be a problem that they're going to have to deal with. The big thing is that I have no idea how they would deal with it. Because like how would you deal with it? You could give people discounts. That's one way. Basically say like Steam does nowadays, like the digital distribution websites for video games does. If you buy one in the series, it gives you like 2% off the next one in the series. Like it's minuscule, but like if you buy everything and then they release a new game, you get like 15% off. Yep. They could do that, but then it kind of makes it, well, why would you do that? I'm not really sure. Honestly, it sounds like really horror. It sounds like it sounds like a real Gordian knot of I don't know what to do with it.
All right. Well, let's throw one other conundrum in there. And I know if I remember correctly, I think this really rubbed Prue the wrong way too. The release of the PDF for Ravnica, I believe. And Eberron as well, if I'm not mistaken, are playtest materials. Now,
are they?
Well, now wait a minute. Hold on. They've since removed the term playtest out of the material. So the term playtest used to be and is not in that material at all. Okay. So now it is like, I think they're referring to it as giving it to the consumer with the caveat that they will pay attention to consumer confidence and change materials, and that if you purchase the PDF and they update it in any method, then you will get the updated material. Okay, from what I understand, this is already gone through an internal rigorous playtest. So that the material is like, it's not 50% ready. It's not Unearthed Arcana. It's past. It's already morphed past Unearthed Arcana. Yeah. So they're not really putting it out there as if the mechanics will work. It's more tweaking than it is we need to find out whether this is we're actually going to include it or not. So they're absolutely going to include Warforged, all those things, all elements of Eberron will be included in there that they've released. It's done. But the word playtest has a very nasty meaning. Okay. Yeah. So for $20, you get the PDF. I think I'm hearing between 130 to 170 page document for Eberron. I'm not sure how thick Ravnica is. I'm thinking 60 to 70 pages, maybe more. Okay. It's the idea of paying for thanks, Prue. Yeah. The quote, "This is not a finished product, it needs testing," was I hope I did that right.
Well, I don't want to break anyone's earphones by just having me throat scream into the microphone. Like I did, I had the impression that they would do that because they actually were doing that before. They did it with the Tome of Elemental Evil, Princes of the Apocalypse stuff, where they did do some changes. They like with the PDF version, you know, where they released like the races and stuff like that. They did some changes to it where they made like the Aarakocra slightly weaker than they were before with their flying speed and shit like that. But I didn't know that it was being sold as a kind of straight up like, yo, motherfuckers, do you want to buy this in early access? No promise that anything will change, but you know, let's see what happens. $20.
All right. Well, I'm playing here, but I'm slightly challenging Vincent because Vince says, "Is there such a thing as a finished product?" I'm going to have to say that Unearthed Arcana is free. So the Unearthed Arcana information is kind of them saying, "Hey, we've got, I don't know, Minotaurs. We're going to do a Princes of the Apocalypse elemental theme. Here are some races. What do you guys think?" Right? That's free. We're going to play with a new, the Ranger was a big deal, right? We're going to put out a Ranger. The one in the book people had problems with. We've modified it a little bit. What do you think? But it's free. On the other hand, with the Eberron Ravnica releases, they put a lot of work into it. This isn't 5 pages, right? This is a crew of people putting together a giant document that needs to be play tested and needs to be it needs to be refined. So I get that this is much more than take a look at 10 pages of something one guy wrote up. We're putting out nearly 200 pages of maybe 15 people going through it. What do you think? So that has value to it. The problem is you're paying. On the other hand, I see people getting pissed off that I have to pay you for something you haven't finished yet.
There's something else to be said regarding basically value judgment. How much is this worth? You know, so what used to happen, like what Vincent, what you've been saying is actually, I don't want to be specifically picking on Vincent or anything like that.
Right.
Just like the idea of it, the idea that you're saying of, is there such a thing as an actual physical or like finished product? That's actually kind of been the problem that I've had with a lot of role-playing games. The people are not treating products as being actually finished. They often produce, like 4th edition was fucking notorious for this, where they released Player's Handbook 1, and then they kind of went, oh, you're missing this, and this, and oh yeah, by the way, your combat system is fucked, and your skills don't work. And they kind of went, oh, well, we'll just fix it next time. So they released the second one, they released Player's Handbook 2, which like did have different content. It didn't have identical content at all, but it included in the first section of it entire errata, changing rules and everything like that. And you had to pay the same amount as the Player's Handbook. And you never got that situation where you could buy Player's Handbook 1 and 2 together. And then they released the third one, which did the same for the first 2. And, you know, like it was this thing of like you were increasing the size of the game, but you were never changing the price, to the point where exactly what you were saying, like in a more twisted version, in order to play the game properly, you would have to buy like 5 or 6 books, all of them costing basically the same amount of money, all of them being incredibly expensive. Like I don't have, like, one of the main prohibitive things is for D&D 5e for me right now is I straight up can't buy the supplements. I can't buy the adventures because they're all like £60. I don't have £60 to throw out. I just don't. And the idea of, oh, by the way, guys, we're going to make you pay for this thing, you know, and it's even more of it's kind of like, is there a value judgment? Is beta testing worth paying for?
Right.
In video games, yes, people pay for beta testing privileges. Yes, like that answer's already been told. But maybe they're asking it here to see if they can get away with it. And honestly, I'm like, nah.
Well, I'm going. Okay, let me be devil's advocate on this too, because Vincent is basically saying like, hey, like any artist, are you ever truly done? Right? If you give an artist infinite time, they'll never be done. Sometimes somebody has to go in there, snatch it out of the artist's hand, and go, "You're done. The cake you made, it's done. Stop messing with it. The painting that you're making, you need to stop. The carving, you gotta the song you're writing, give it to me. Release the grip, smack them in the head a little bit, and go, it's done already, right? Because some artists, you're never done. I personally, I feel like if I want to make something, it's never done. Okay, some directors and people that make movies and stuff, it's like the people paying them are going, listen, your movie's done by November 6th, period. Doesn't matter. I know you want to tweak the music. I know you want to tweak the sound editing. I know you want to go back and film one more scene with this artist. This actor says like, oh, give me one more take. No, you're done. You've got to cut it off. So I do understand that fact that we've got this playtest material. I know I'm saying playtest, but we've got this material. It's beta test, or whatever you want to call it.
It's like, who fucking cares? I'm just getting unreasonably angry at WoTC right now. Oh man, make us pay for the privilege.
Well, okay. In their defense, let's be honest. In their defense, there are people whose idea is it's not buying the book, it's paying for the privilege of having something immediate, raw, and having an impact on how it's created. I know that, listen, because honestly, you don't really have to buy it at all, right? I haven't paid for it. I have not purchased it. I'm not a big PDF fan. I would buy it if they said, we're done, I'm finished as of right now. Even if they later on wanted to change it. If they said, Ravnica's done, Eberron's done, here's your book, I might be inclined to pay for it. $20, sure. What they're saying is, and they're being honest about it, fine, that's good. They're saying that here's a product, it may need some tweaking. If you buy the PDF, we will tweak it again for free. You'll get the update. You're first. If you pay for this, you're first. Some people want to be first. Some people want to be included in the hey, I'm a contributing creator as well. I'm into Mike Merles and the whole Dungeons and Dragons WoTC team. Yes, fine. I can see people investing in it. And mind you, remember, it's an open market. You don't have to pay for anything. If they said, hey, $20, you can beta test our game, and they got no money from it, hey, you've just proven.
You just proven the point.
Correct, right. Yeah. If just like a Kickstarter, just like Patreon, it rises or falls based on the market. If no one invested in a Patreon, in a Kickstarter, you know what, something went wrong. We didn't reach enough people. We didn't let them know what we were doing. There's not enough fans out there for what we're doing, et cetera, et cetera. It's the product you're telling me is not done. I don't feel like investing in it. So yeah, I'm agreeing with you that, hey, I'm giving you money for something that's not done. But in their defense, they're saying, I'm giving you money for something that's not done. You're promising me that you're going to listen to me if there's something I don't like, and you're going to give me the finished product if there are changes. Now, here's the hard part. They're going to print a book, right? When they print the book's the finished product.
Yeah.
Do we really want the book to be quick and then have 30 pages of errata? Or do we want the book to be slow and say, hey, here's $60, 40 pounds, 45 pounds, or whatever here for the book. You're going to have to wait for us to tweak it till it's done. you know, we don't want to put out a ton of errata to say, hey, here's Eberron, and oh, by the way, here's Eberron, you know, 1.2 or something, 1.0.2, to say, hey, we've changed the Warforged yet a third time. You know, I wouldn't want that either. So,
I mean, I absolutely, like, don't get it twisted, dude. I literally think that this is a pretty good idea in regards to the system that they had before of playtest survey, you know, doing this thing of repeated cycles. My problem with this right now is that they're literally doing pre-releases. Like they're putting out like a pre-release product, and you inevitably open up the market. You inevitably open up the circumstance to the pitfalls of the pre-release market. I mean, I'm not a pundit and I'm not a journalist, but sometimes I do talk about video games every now and then. And the big thing that happens with that is as you say, it's a buyer's market. And well, what happened to Folktale, which was a lovely little game that came out on early access about 7 years ago? And they came out on early access on Steam, and all of about 6 people bought the damn game, you know? So the company just went, okay, so we're going to discontinue it. And promptly everybody who spent £20, you know, however much money that was, on Folktale, they're out £20. They're out on that game. If the buyer's market comes into play in this, and let's say Eberron doesn't just flop, it fucking tanks, you know, like not reputationally, nothing changes except for financially speaking. Like, you know, everything is making like 100,000 or £100 or something like that, and Eberron is barely punching above 10, you know, something like that. Basically, obviously, the buyer's market will come into play, and people will just go, okay, yeah, we will stop doing Eberron. In fact, no book is going to be released for Eberron.
Right.
The reach of D&D inherently just means that there will be people who buy the game, who buy that book. And what are they going to get? They're going to get a half-functional book that they had to pay for the privilege of beta testing that isn't going to have a full release.
Right.
Like that's like the way that the system works. That's the way that the pre-release culture works.
Right. Now, Prue brought up a point, because Vincent was asking about it being released, and Prue says quite a few people bought it and read this in the intro and they were pissed. Okay, if you are a person who does not scour or, you know, I guess surf a little bit, whether you're using your Google foo, you're getting on YouTube. If you're not that individual, if you're Joe Consumer, hey, there's a new release from WoTC. It says Ravnica, and you click buy. Oh, there's a new release from WoTC. It says Eberron, and you click buy. It is not explicit that this is beta material.
No, like the big one of Unearthed Arcana. I'm sorry to keep cutting you off, dude, but yeah, okay. Unearthed Arcana, there is the section that's just put in all black, all like bold ink. You know, this is written in pencil, not in ink. You know, this is all playtest. This is all changing. You know, so to make it all clear, and it's not this. It seems.
Well, and now that's Unearthed Arcana.
Yeah.
This material is not Unearthed Arcana, right? So in many ways, like what's the way to say this? WoTC will defend itself by saying we've put out multiple hours of video talking about the process we have going through the creation of this product. They'll also say, well, we have a Twitch channel. We talk about these things all the time. But the consumer who is not going on Twitch, that's not going on YouTube, that's not going on forums who says, hey, WoTC website click buy may be disappointed because they're going, the product package should say this on the front of it, right?
Yeah.
At the minimum, it should say, this is being produced under the Unearthed Arcana banner, right? Even though it's not Unearthed Arcana, it should say, like you said, printed in pencil, not ink. This material will change or has a chance of changing. And like Prue says, I think WoTC got caught with their pants down too, because Amazon unfortunately jumped the gun on launching the Ravnica setting. So WoTC had to scramble pretty hard. Yes, I agree. If you go to Amazon, it says this is a book. There is no information about it being updated. There's no information about it, the information being changed. So, you know, how do I know? Because I freaking have a job where I'm delivering mail and I've got this thing playing in my ear for 6 hours at a time, and I hear this information, so I know. The average person who says, hey, I've got $100 burning in my pocket, I play Dungeons and Dragons on the weekend, oh, a new object, click pay. It's not going to be that, it's not that, it is not, they're buying a package that they have to open up first to see that this information may change. I think that's not right.
Yeah.
I'm sure that, do I think it's underhanded? Possibly. You know, WoTC could be saying, well, you know what? We've been honest and open about our development of this product to enough people that they should know, and we're marketing ourselves for free. We're getting online. You can hear and listen to us. Hey, Vince, you're fine.
Oh, you're gonna go. See us, bye.
Yeah, that's you don't have to sit here and listen to us ramble on and on and on. But the point is that, yes, WoTC should put a big red banner and go, beta material. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Period. Beta material, this will come down when we're done, right? Big flashing red letter. Have they done that? No. Would they do that? Could they do that immediately? Sure. Sure, they could do that. But remember that, you know, WoTC's Dungeons and Dragons is pretty big. You know, maybe they should be far more explicit in what they're doing, because they're touching so many other things. Like Amazon does it. Dude, they don't care. Amazon's like, look, you got a book, we'll sell it. Is it pre-order? Sure, fine. Click the pre-order button. We're going to make money off of it. Amazon is not interested in whether you're going to update this book or not, or what your business practices are. Amazon is concerned about making money. If you've got a book to sell, we'll sell it, let people click it and purchase it. And a lot of people who buy their stuff go through Amazon. Ooh, new D&D book, click, buy, pre-order, done. So
yeah, like having you guys watch me like fucking melt down live on screen. Now I've calmed down a wee bit, and now I'm kind of looking at it with a bit better of a head. It's a pity that Vin didn't get to see it, but you know, like thinking about it with a bit more, you know, calm down, Laith kind of thing. I kind of dig what you're saying, and I kind of think what probably happened, that there was some kind of comedy of errors where the message got out before anybody was able to contextualize it. You know, they weren't able to sell the idea of it. Admittedly, selling someone on the idea of beta testing is a very hard sell, and it's a null hypothesis. It's like a fucking done deal for me. I've done beta testing in the past, and I am an idiot, and in my youth I've paid for the privilege of beta testing things. I'm not doing that game no more. I'm just done with it. But what it probably would have is that if they had had more time, they could have been able to just immediately kind of see, yo, this needs beta testing. You know, like this should be made more clear that it's beta testing. Because my problem is the fact that it is beta testing, And it seems that what other people are having a bit of trouble with is the idea that they didn't tell people about it. You know, that's the difference of it all. And for me, I'm just kind of like, it's just straight up, nah, fuck that.
Yeah. Now, of course, this also is going to be based on what you consider unfinished and what they consider unfinished.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the Unearthed Arcana stuff, I've heard people say, you know, I'll say under YouTube pundits go, yeah, they put this in Unearthed Arcana and it's broken. There's no way I'm using this. Whereas the opinion I'm getting from the Eberron content is, this is really good. I doubt it needs much tweaking, but they might have to. Right? So the Unearthed Arcana might be 50%. The Eberron I'm hearing is like more like 80 to 90. And maybe WoTC was trying to separate it out of the UA so that they're basically trying to say, hey guys, we just need to polish this and we're done, versus we had a random thought, we're not sure if it'll work. And maybe that's hard to describe to the consumer, you know, to get across. Although on the other hand, you know, someone could make the case, well, maybe they shouldn't do it. If it's that complicated to describe it, maybe they shouldn't do it at all, right?
Yeah.
Pick one or the other. It's like, so Prue says precisely what I think happened. Amazon jumped the gun, so players discovered the books before WoTC launched them, right? And Amazon didn't release that they're going to be beta tested, and WoTC's going, well, it's not really beta testing because it's not under the Unearthed Arcana. It's more like, it's more refinement. And
Yeah.
even me describing it, I'm fumbling for how they describe it because they weren't clear, or maybe they were clear, but their clarity isn't consumers' clarity. You know, maybe they have an internal working of, hey, this is how we're going to describe it. But for the consumer, they're going, yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah.
So, again, this also brings up, maybe I'll segue to a slightly, not different thing, but if this is successful, this is strange to say, if this release is successful monetarily, right?
Yeah.
We're going to release a book early, let you guys tweak it so that it's good. We're going to add, you know, go back in, add more art, get the layout good, have the play testing in it, boom, print the book out. It's great. Do you think this might be what they're going to do with some of their other things, like Dark Sun, Birthright, Greyhawk, Mystera?
I mean, it is
some of the other maybe Magic the Gathering settings.
That is absolutely like something that could be thought about, and it is actually something that would be really scary. The main thing is because. All right, so this is kind of going to be a thing, and this is talking about a different historical event, you know. Back in the olden days in England, there was basically like two bigwig wargaming companies and a bunch of other little ones that existed in support of them. Yeah. This was Games Workshop, go figure, they're the bigwigs everywhere now. And the guys who make Bolt Action Limited. They are the two bigwigs, you know. Games Workshop, they do fantasy and sci-fi stuff. Bolt Action, they're all about you know, kind of making army men and stuff like that. Have you guys ever, if any of you have ever played the little green plastic army men, you know, with little things? they are based on sculpts that Bolt Action made. You know, basically they are really big, and you know they were really big at the time. You know, but so there were a bunch of these other independent gigs, and they used to make their money by just selling things that you could put onto the Bolt Action, the Games Workshop stuff. So you can see that this is kind of like, it's a thing of they are industry leaders is the point. And then at one point, Games Workshop changed their sales practice from being the best in the market and giving good value for money to being the best in the market, but slightly raising their price for what they are giving you. What they gave you didn't change, but they just slightly raised the price, citing change of market, need to make money, trying to expand the business, you know, whatever you want to say. Well, because they raised their price just slightly, Bolt Action were able to raise their price slightly. You see, so they were able to be kind of to keep competitive and that kind of thing. Well, Games Workshop then raised their price again, and Bolt Action raised their price again. And then Games Workshop changed the product that they were selling to be smaller. So you were paying more to get less. The big one that was kind of that was the big thing of it was the space was called, like, it's like it's seen as the most basic bog standard thing. I think it's called like the Space Marine Tactical Squad. You would be able to buy for like £10. You would be able to buy 10 of these little miniatures. So it's £1 per miniature. Then they raised it to 15, making it basically like £1.20, £1.05 or £1.25 or whatever you want to say. But then they reduced the number of tactical squad from 10 to 5, shrinking the size. And what promptly happened was Bolt Action reduced their stuff down. Now, do I have all those facts correct? I don't think so. I'm pretty sure that it was actually one of the little independent companies that were doing this, that was doing this practice first. But because Games Workshop and Bolt Action were able to normalize that, the entire market changed. Now, like, this sounds very hyperbolic and very kind of, ooh, slippery slope. But imagine this, right? Just imagine this for a sec. You've got Eberron, which is basically a beta testing book. Yeah? Imagine one day some shiny ass idiot thinks, okay, I'm going to release a book that is all writing. That's all just like columns and columns of writing. Yeah? And paying for it will help buy art. That sounds pretty reasonable, you know? Art's expensive as buggery. It's really, really difficult, blah, 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 blah. Then somebody kind of goes, okay, then here is the art, and I want to write the book, and you paying for this will help with that. And you know, imagine that. That's a really, really good system. Now, what if somebody came along and says, my name is Joe Bloggs, and I have bought the rights to Fatal Second Edition. I have not written a book. I have not made any art. I have not done anything. I just have the right to make the second edition of whatever the fuck it was called, like the acronym of Fatal. I just have the ability to make Fatal second edition. Because of the way the market is, people are going to buy that just to see what happens. But what they're also doing is that they're buying a product based on the potential of what that product could be at some point in the future. Joe Bloggs could then just turn around and went, fuck you guys, I'm not making anything. And they're not being held to account by Kickstarter or Indiegogo. Kickstarter and Indiegogo, they kind of, people talk about like, oh, you have no oversight. You have no thing. Indiegogo has to actually hold you to account. It's part of their terms of service that they have to ascertain whether or not you made a reasonable attempt to complete what you had promised before they would release them from their contract and be able to return your deposit. And if you fail, they could actually take you to court. Like, this is an American thing. It's a well-known thing that like people have been taken to court over this. Similarly with Kickstarter, though the project is a bit different. This is just a book. This is literally a book that like has blank pages in it, and you're buying that. Wizards of the Coast will never do that. I mean, they may never do that. I don't know. They might go crazy. But they may think. But I do think that they can get away with this, and it would normalize the market to it. And when that happens, it then becomes a free-for-all. It then becomes a cottage industry of people nicking other people's stuff and putting it into the book and just say, look, it's based on this guy. It's this guy's inspiration. But I'm going to change it. And then people buy it, and it's like it could go any number of ways. What I'm getting annoyed at, what I'm looking at is I'm looking at a change in the market. I'm looking at a moment where I can point at and I can say, this is where this is going to start, And I'm worried about it because I've seen it happen with video games, and I've seen it happen with books sometimes. Mm-hmm. People buying the Kindle version, like self-publishers, they sell the first edition of their book, and then they release the second edition of their book, but they make you pay for it again because it's an almost entire new book. It's this kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, let's have a look at what the comments are saying. They're probably saying, they're going, Life, what the fuck are you talking about? You're an idiot. No one's got anything to say about it. Okay, cool. I hope I've been speaking truth to power.
That's because we've been going on so long. They're just like, all right, guys, wrap it up.
Okay, they're done. They are literally done. We've been going for 2.5 hours, guys. Let's stop it.
Yeah.
So cool. I wonder, just on the face of it, what would be the way that you would try to sell this? As a businessman, how would you try to sell this?
Wow. Well, I do see this as a revenue stream. I really do see this as they're getting money. They have an unfinished product, and they need to keep the doors open. They need to make money. They want a continual revenue stream. I see that. Now, being part of Hasbro, they really can't really get into Kickstarters and Patreons, because people are going to say, you're already making money. Now you want me to pay you to develop things you're already developing. So my feeling is that what they could do is similar to what they're doing with the Unearthed Arcana. What they could do is remove a section of the book that they're creating, or maybe make micro adventures, and for a minimal amount of money. For example, they could do something like, they could do something where there's an adventure that has to do with the Warforged. And then within that adventure, you get say the Warforged, maybe one, that's a race, maybe a couple of spells, maybe a new creature, and wrap that up as if to say, make it 10 to 15 pages long and go, here, guys, this is a taste of this new book. You can purchase this on its own, and it gives you material in our book, and then use that money to then fund the further artwork and the layout and the editing and stuff of this major book, as if to say, here's a taste of what we're working on. We're working on Eberron. Here, guys, here's a taste of it. Here's some creatures. Here's a new race. Here's some background information. Much of this, our book is going to be separate than what we're giving you, but this is a taste of what we're working on. Do you guys like it? And then by having people purchase that, then use that information and money to say, hey, people are looking for this. Let's put it into the new book, which in many ways was what the Unearthed Arcana is about, right? We have an idea of something. What do you guys think? And then using that. But it's strange because the Unearthed Arcana, they didn't put out any Eberron information in the Unearthed Arcana.
They did.
Did they?
No, the second one they made was Changeling Shifter, Warforge, and the
right.
Artificer as like a wizarding tradition. And
That's right. It's early on. That's right.
Yeah, and it was and people were going crazy because the Artificer was like basically giving people the ability to make magic items, like short-term magic items. And they were kind of like, well, we don't know how to make magic items to begin with, so maybe this is the only way that we can make magic items in the game. And they were like, well, what? Why? Why would you do that to us, WoTC? Yeah.
That's right. That's right. I forgot about that because they're like, well, where are the crafting rules? And then there was there was speculation that they're going to release crafting rules pretty soon and add it to the game, and then WoTC's going, we were trying to pare this game down, and you guys are forcing us to add crap to it. Which I think, I believe that this is a delay in Dark Sun because Dark Sun is heavily psionic.
Yeah.
And they're stuck between a rock and a hard place because, hey, we want the rules pared down so it's easy, but we also want to please the people who want to layer on top of it a new set of rules for psionics. And me personally, I'm a minimalist. I'm like, look, just scrape off magic, put psionics over top of it, you're done. Call magic missile. Yeah, it's like call magic missile a telekinetic blast or something. Call
mind bullets.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
Right. It's just there's no difference between clerics and magic users, and no one's like pissed off about that. Sure, you could maybe say, well, instead of there being like spells, it's like you can use them as like spell points or something and just call them psionic points or what have you.
You could do whatever you want. You could scream into the wind for all the difference it's going to make. The big thing of that, I'm very interested on this because like I said, it's a change in the market. It's a change in the way that role-playing games are going to be sold. The big one, which was that a role-playing game has been released in pre-order, which is very strange. Like as PDF, it's not released on pre-order for the book itself. The PDF is being released on pre-order, which I've never seen done before. Like maybe people have seen it done before, but maybe it's this thing. So you kind of get this different thing of how the market is going to get changed, and it's making me kind of think of like, is it changing the right way, dude? But yeah, that's me.
I think if it's financially extremely successful for them, I think it's going to continue. I think so. And with the Magic the Gathering, they have a ton of art, so they can mine that for whatever they want. So I have a feeling the Ravnica book is not going to have it's not going to be modified much at all. I think it's just a matter of layout, some more details, and they're done. I think the Eberron book is the bigger issue. It's a legacy IP. They're going to have to use some of that money for a lot of the internal art. They do have older art that they can mine as well. But there'll come an issue of the people that's paid money for the PDF, which will be updated, are then going to have to pay money for the physical book if they want it. And so they're kind of double dipping, which is normal. Normally there is some double dipping. Someone can say, hey, I buy the PDF, and then go, oh man, I really want to buy the book. That's their own choice. So, but if this revenue stream's gonna come in, I can see them doing that for Dark Sun too. They're gonna do it for Dark Sun. They're gonna do it for what's another Planescape.
Spelljammer.
Spelljammer.
They recently released a UA about Spelljammer, and I think it was actually just the ship mechanics of Spelljammer.
Shit, Prue's still here. I'm just.
Oh man, Prue! Hey.
Oh well. Anyways, Prue says I think a lot of the players who miss the psionic really just miss the brokenness of it. So no matter what Merles and company come up with, those people will all be mad. But maybe that's just prejudice showing. Yeah,
I think that's absolutely true. Like fucking. Like I have a real problem with the idea of psionics just being a separate system of magic. Like in my perfect game, my great love of all my life, Fantasy Age, which has been sitting on my floor for like 2 weeks. Like they literally say all magic, everything, all magical effects, yeah, they're all the same across the board. If you want, you can make this like crisis of faith thing for a cleric, but you don't even have to include that if you don't want to. They're all the same magic. It's all the same everything. The difference is the flavor. And it's exactly the same with like psionics. I think that that's how it should be.
Yeah.
I mean, the mystic I thought was really, really interesting because it was basically a spellcaster that doesn't use any magic, which was pretty interesting. But yeah, I think we're getting so tired that we're just rambling and babbling at this point, trying to just go like, oh, let's go. So I think we should wrap.
So this was a big. I didn't let you bring your subjects here, so this is a big one. These were two big ones.
By the way, guys, I made a list of things that we didn't talk about. We'll do it next time, okay? I'm too tired to talk about it.
Yeah. So I'm going to let you go. Hell, it's pretty early here. It's almost 8:30 in the morning here. So
over here it's 1:30, but I've got to like get dinner ready and go to the gym and stuff like that. So.
Yep. So anyway, in summary, we talked about doing things in the past and having it come back and haunt you.
Yeah.
By clean it. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, Prue. Yeah. So and then we talked about new things coming down the pipe from the world's most popular role-playing game. So yeah, pretty interesting stuff. We'll see what happens with it. And next time I'm sure the world will change enough that we'll have plenty of current events that we can talk about. You wanted to talk about the earthquake? Absolutely. We'll bring up some other things. So maybe we'll get off the WoTC train, WoTC hate train.
Like honestly, I think it would have been all hate everywhere because we could have also talked about the post Mugabe vote in Zimbabwe, which is supposed to be rife with like political basically just stuff happening in it, and I don't really want to talk about it because we'll just get in talking. We could also talk about how Magic the Gathering is becoming even more corrosive and destructive to the human soul, and then we can talk about how Warhammer is releasing a card game which is Magic the Gathering. They're basically releasing the same game. They're releasing like everything, booster packs, it's identical, with a massive push, and they sold a founders pack, which was like the pre-order of it. Yeah, do you guess how much is the pre-order? Guess, just guess it. Just guess it. Go on, man. Do it.
Okay, the pre-order for a pack.
Yeah, pre-order for a pack.
Let's see, American. What is it now? It's like $12, $10,
No, $200.
No, not $200.
I'm fucking serious, mate. You get $200 to buy all 4 because they come out with 4 boxes, and it's $200 for all 4 boxes, and you get like 10 booster packs with it, and then you get a bit of cardboard, and then you get a pin, and that's it. Yeah. And it's fucking brilliant how apoplectically angry it is that it like comes in a little box. Oh yeah, and that's another thing. They have 4 cards, yeah, and there are only 1,000 of each card in all of existence. So they're already building in the fucking. I would love to bitch and moan about that, but I've got to go make food.
Yeah. Even Jared says, "Whoa, come up with 2-hour stream." Yeah. So we'll please save that energy for the next one.
Time.
Yeah, save that energy. So yeah, thanks guys for joining in. Creators Conclave. Maybe we can get some other voices in here and get them just pissed off.
I would love it. Jared, Prue, Vin, all of yous, like seriously, give us a line and we'll have you on. Fucking doesn't matter.
Shit, I think Vince is even putting out something for a new cipher system, Numenera, I believe.
Oh, in that case, yeah, come on, we'd love to chat about it. Also, I saw somebody was making like a CCG, like a card game. Where was it? I think it was Vincent.
Yeah, and then I can't go. Oh, it's too small. Damn it.
Yeah, Vincent was the one writing. Was talking about building spaceships in the cipher system.
Yes.
And also, I think he was the one talking about, Dixit. Man, talking about my favorite games. All up in here. I've got to save this fucking chat.
Yeah.
Let's save this chat. No, doesn't matter. Anyway, so having high, we would love to have you. And actually, we're going to be having, I'm trying to arrange to have some guests come on.
Yep.
On next one come round. So yeah, just wanting to kick off because I seriously I think we just should go. Otherwise, we'll just sit here and talk for ages. Yep. You guys can find me on my website, on my YouTube channel. You can see it down there. I generally look into the development, the design aspect, and kind of philosophy behind design decisions made in role-playing games and stuff like that. So I kind of go for more intellectual stuff. I also try to make it more nitty-gritty. So like, how usable is this philosophy in this circumstance? That kind of stuff. Yeah. Also, I'm going to be working in partnership with a new company, with a company called Power Up Gamer, with Yaron D&D, and we're going to be putting up a Kickstarter for our newest book, and that should be coming out on, I believe it's Wednesday the 1st. So keep an eye out for that, and I will see you guys around. How will they find you, dear Mr. RPG with DBJ?
Yeah, I changed the name a little bit. Whatever. It's gonna. I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, Monday through Friday, demi-daily deep dive. I keep saying demi-daily as if I'm gonna miss a day, but I keep showing up. I don't know. Whatever. I
you
really
gotta leave it open. You gotta leave the back door open, mate, in case like one day you just go, you know what? Fuck this. I don't want to do this day.
Yeah. I can't help it. It's like it's my coffee in the morning.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm like, oh, I'm half tired. What am I going to talk about? And then somebody says something that's absolutely brilliant and intriguing, and I'm like, yeah. And then I just wake the hell up, and then I start, So yeah, it's my coffee in the morning. But guys know where to find me. Jared has been more than gracious in creating a Discord channel so that people could post comments and continue talking about things and make questions and such. It'll grow. It's not being patronized as often in essentially because I'm not pushing it as much, which I should. So yes, definitely go to the Discord because it's an easier way to collate all the information and people talking about things, and kind of a clearinghouse too, because those people who aren't really interested will go by the wayside, and then I can listen to the people who are like really interested in doing it. By the way, keep an eye out for the D6th and the D20th of the month. The D6th is coming up. It's a very important day. I know you guys have all heard about the D6 back from the 12th century. Every 6th and 20th, we are releasing an adventure key. It's like a small adventure. So look for those, as well as our new release, Plains and Grasslands. And I don't know. I say I'm going to do new stuff. I thought about doing a summary thing, but I think this Creators Conclave is good enough for me. There was a suggestion to do maybe like summaries of like popular channels like Critical Role, Dawnforge Cast, Nerdarchy, Absolute Tabletop, like kind of do like a, hey, in this week this is what's going on kind of thing. But that just make me another talking head, and I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. I prefer to have a host with me to bounce ideas off of. So I want to try to get more people on in the morning with me, which is difficult enough on its own, especially if you're in the States, and then overseas the time is really odd because people are at work or they're doing other things. But yeah, I'll try to get more people on. RP Gamer's been very more helpful than he thinks he is in helping me host some of the morning shows. So that's been awesome.
That guy is a lovely bear full of the best, most fantastic ideas ever, and he does not notice it at all. He's like what's the thing with there's something about Mary. He's Mary in that situation. Like, Jesus Christ, he's a lovely man.
Yeah, and then Vincent says, sure, he'd be up for it. Absolutely. Just ping us and we'll figure it out. It's I'm so zen about things. It'll just be like, yeah, what if if you pick a day and go, hey, I could be there Wednesday. I'll just sure, of course.
Yeah, he's so DBJ is so zen. He basically puts up with me just not talking to him for ages and then showing up and go, hey guys, are we still on?
Yeah, I assume things are there until they're not. So yeah, it exists. It is in existence until it just isn't. And then oh, I can't go. Whatever. I'll be there. Sure. It does not bother me at all. People have lives, so they've got to do that. Okay. So guys, thank you very much. I've got to get some food inside of me as well. It's very early morning, or maybe go back to sleep. I don't know. One of the two. Okay. So thanks for being up for this. Again, those of you who may end up literally going through this entire, over 2-hour live stream and are like, hey, I'd like to join in, ping either one of us and we will probably get you on and just, some cool ideas. We like to go deep diving and things. So thank you very much. I am going to hit the end broadcast. 3, 2, and 1. See ya.